All right, welcome back, everyone. I told you about a fiery panel. We are delivering. Liz, Bernard, and Nomi are standing by right now to give us some insight. I just want to know what you guys thought about tonight's debate. Steve hit on a good point earlier. It sounded like the same thing that we've been hearing. Nothing was new.
Well, I think. Go ahead.
No, okay, I'll go. I think it was a beautiful debate. If that is really the only term that can come to mind.
Beautiful.
I think it was beautiful in the sense that it was unlike any other debate that we've seen so far. The format was, we heard people speaking in Spanish, translation, and political analysis in Spanish, which Ann Coulter was very much against and tweeted about because it ruins the sanctity of debates, which Republicans have really staged for us so far. But I thought it was just getting questions from the audience, speaking to a woman who, has been separated with her family because of our inability to deal with immigration issues.
So it had some moments.
Yeah, I think it had its moments, and my favorite moment was when Hillary Clinton, said, "I'm not a natural politician." That moment of vulnerability was very interesting, and I think something we haven't seen before. I think it's unfortunate that she had to say that. I think it's a little weird to say.
Seems as if she waited a long time to say that as well.
Yeah, exactly. But I thought we actually got some new information and definitely some new moments.
All right, Bernard?
I have to agree with Liz. I thought that her saying, I'm not a natural politician, in case you haven't noticed, was a breath of fresh air. I think we need more real, authentic Hillary Clinton. I think bringing that emotional connectivity is exactly what she needs to do. Take down the mask a little bit, let people in, because it's true. She is a policy wonk. She's incredibly smart, the most qualified, but she's not your typical retail politician. She's not that comfortable. And to acknowledge that and then press forward is exactly what she needs to do. She held Bernie Sanders to task over and over and over again, whether it was the vote against the 2007 immigration bill, the vote against the auto bailout, which are both true, the vote against, as I mentioned, immigration, but time and again, when they played those clips, for example, of Bernie Sanders praising Fidel Castro and Daniel Ortega, I don't think that that's going to go very well in South Florida. So I think Hillary Clinton scored a number of good points on Bernie Sanders. I think when she talked about wanting to have debt-free tuition because she doesn't think that everybody should be able to go to school tuition-free like Bernie Sanders does. I think when she talked about we're at 90% with Obamacare, let's not tear that down and start all over again with an incredible divisive debate, which she presided over with Hillary Care. Let's not do that again. We got Obamacare passed. Let's build on it. Let's not go back and re-litigate single payer. So I think time and again, she brought it to Bernie Sanders, but she was able to do it in a human way, and I think we need to see more of that.
But Sanders also delivered some good blows tonight.
This was a strong debate for Democrats overall. We're civil, we stick to policy, and a lot of these policies have been litigated in the 7 other debates. But I think the key here, and Liz mentioned it, is that this is about humanity. What we were talking about was how to help the average American person's life. How, yes, there was a lot of Wall Street conversation. There was a lot of conversation about the inherent corruption within our system. But it all came back to what can these candidates do for the undocumented American who came in at 6 months old and has no place in society legally, or the person who's been left out of the system because they can't find jobs, or the worker in Immokalee, or just it was really refreshing to see both of them able to connect with each of the moderators were brilliant in bringing in citizens who've been affected by the policy. And we see that a lot, but it was deeply personal, deeply touching. But, some of the stuff that Bernard brought up about Hillary, talking about the 2007 vote, we all know now, and this has been litigated over and over, that Bernie Sanders voted against that, as most of the organizations, the immigrants' rights organizations were against it because it legalized slavery. We're talking about a guest worker program that basically meant that we were turning the clocks back to the 1800s for undocumented workers in America. And that's not who we are. We can do something better. That piece of legislation was designed by George W. Bush. If Hillary Clinton was so against the Bush era, then why is it that she was so for this bill? It was not a perfect bill. It wasn't even close to a perfect bill. In fact, so much so that the New York Times wrote an editorial 6 months ago saying that his immigration plan is the most comprehensive, best plan out there, and that Hillary Clinton should be looking at that for her future plan.
All right, now we want to stop you for a moment. And before we turn it over to Linda Tran, we have some sound now. Hillary Clinton addressing the Benghazi issue.
Some of the families claim that you lied to them. Here's Pat Smith, the mother information officer, Shan Smith. Let's listen.
Hillary and Obama and Panetta and Biden and all of Susan Rice all told me it was a video when they knew it was not the video. And they said that they would call me and let me know what the outcome was.
Secretary Clinton, did you lie to them?
You know, look, I feel a great deal of sympathy for the families of the 4 brave Americans that we lost at Benghazi. And I certainly can't even imagine the grief that she has for losing her son. But she's wrong. She's absolutely wrong. I and everybody in the administration, all the people she named, the president, the vice president, Susan Rice, we were scrambling to get information that was changing literally by the hour. And when we had information, we made it public, but then sometimes we had to go back and say we have new information that contradicts it. So I testified for 11 hours. Anybody who watched that and listened to it knows that I answered every question that I was asked, and when it was over, the Republicans had to admit they didn't learn anything. Why? Because there had already been one independent investigation. There had been 7 or 8 congressional investigations, mostly led by Republicans, who all reached the same conclusions, that there were lessons to be learned. And this is not the first time we lost Americans in a terrorist attack. We lost 3,000 people on 9/11. We lost Americans serving in embassies in Tanzania and Kenya when my husband was president. We lost over 250 Americans, both military and civilian, when Ronald Reagan was president in Beirut. And at no other time of those tragedies were they politicized. Instead, people said, let's learn the lessons and save lives, and that's what I...
Brown, we'll try to get that sound on immigration for you a bit later in the show, but let's go and turn to our panelists now, Liz, Bernard, and Nomi. Your thoughts about that? She said it's not going to happen.
I think it's great. And you know, the email issue is an issue that obviously is going to be following Hillary this year. I mean, the possibility of her being indicted by the FBI is obviously a big deal, but not necessarily with Democrats. I mean, it's been framed...
Is it more of hype?
Right.
Than a reality?
Right.
That she could be indicted?
Yes. I mean, I certainly believe so, but I don't have a crystal ball. But I also think, I mean, from the beginning, Sanders has been framing this as an attack from Republicans. I mean, when we weren't talking about the FBI at that time, but when he was asked that question, he said, I'm not going to talk about your damn emails. So now he can't go back on it. And so it doesn't play. I mean, we saw the crowd basically applaud her saying, I don't even want to respond to this question. I don't even know if Democrats care.
This is the Republicans' fantasy. Every single time I talk to a Republican, they're like, Hillary's going to get indicted. Hillary's going to get indicted. It is fantasy land. The Democrats don't care. It is hogwash, and I'm glad she smacked him down for asking the question because it borders on being disrespectful. The idea that Hillary Clinton would be indicted for something that Colin Powell did is ridiculous. And the fact is, yeah, it's a lot of sizzle and it sounds sexy and she sent confidential emails. She didn't. They weren't classified.
But do you think that's sort of played into the whole, this is why she's not trustworthy, this is why we believe she's not honest? And I'm talking about honest, and I'm talking about voters.
I think the Republicans recognize that they can exploit a weakness that she has among certain segments of the voters, and they're going to use whatever they can. They're going to use Benghazi, even though time and time again, tens of millions of dollars, many investigations have shown she did nothing wrong. They're going to use the email controversy. They're going to use anything that they can to highlight what they see as a perceived weakness.
My thought process, and I'd say this to fellow Republicans as well, is that they always take a legitimate concern and take it way too far so that it can't be actually addressed. Were there things that happened in Benghazi that probably shouldn't have happened? Absolutely. Should we have had more security there, a better flow of information? Should Chris Stevens, former ambassador to Libya, have been able to communicate directly with the State Department in a more expedient process? Absolutely. But none of that got conversed in any of those hearings because they were focused on those damn emails. They were focused on finding some sort of smoking gun that wasn't there. You know, she was Secretary of State, sure. You know, she should have been in charge of somehow streamlining the State Department and communicating better with the CIA. But, you know, that's all in the past.
And if
that's not
something
necessarily
was
criminal.
there, if something was in the email, don't you think they would have found it by now?
Yeah,
I mean, are we
reporters
still
would've.
waiting? Is there an element of surprise somewhere?
I think that this is the smoking gun that doesn't exist.
Yeah. And it's fatigue. I really think, I mean, in the same way that Benghazi has become like a hashtag people use like on Twitter to like, Benghazi gate, like something, when something basically is a smoking gun or a conspiracy. And you know, when I was watching the debate and they sort of played that 11-hour hearing that she had in her face, you know, like, and I just feel like when we see those images, it shows Hillary in a strong position. She, you know, couldn't have asked for a better, you know, 11 hours of her appearing to be very presidential and very in command. And again, that image is being used, you know, when there was an inaudible yelling meme of the Trump, Rubio, and Cruz yelling at each other. There's her face below it, just being like, okay, can we talk now? You know, bringing some seriousness and some clout to a debate that isn't substantive on the other side.
And I mean, you know, look, you compare that to Donald Trump could barely get through a 2-hour debate. Remember when he complained that the debate was too long with CNN? I mean, can you imagine Donald Trump standing up to congressional grilling for 11 hours? It would never happen. I mean, she is the adult in the room. And I think as we move into the general election, people are going to recognize and understand.
Well, I think Democrats are the adults in the room. I mean, there is such a clear, just differences aside, they can communicate with each other. Their biggest concern is talking over each other with more policy. It's like, no, let me get my policy in. Let me get my policy in.
You can't just put the GOP side down and just say that they're not adults as well.
Wait, I'm sorry.
I mean,
watching the same debates?
There have been some issues on that side, but they're still adults. I mean,
okay,
you know.
John Kasich is a great
God bless
Kasich is the only one, huh?
Dad. I mean, his policies are a little, but.
What about Hillary and Obama? Remember the issues between the two?
Sure. I mean, some of the Reverend Wright stuff. I mean,
that turned into a little
South
cat fight
Carolina
at
got
the end.
really dirty, but it's nowhere near. I mean, the rules are thrown out the door. We've talked about this a million times over. I think they don't need any more attention. But getting back to the emails for a second, it's still an investigation. I wouldn't discount it. I think that she had to answer it that way. I don't know if she should have said, I won't be indicted. That's sort of a declarative. But, you know, she needs to have a better answer for it. I know you don't want to hear me say that as a Democrat, but it still feeds into that narrative that she doesn't have this issue under control.
All right, hang on to it, Liz. We're going to have to take a quick break. I promise we're coming back to them. They're awesome. We'll take a quick break, and we'll have more analysis when we come back. Thanks for watching CBSN. Back in a moment. All right, welcome back, everyone. Want to get some final thoughts on the debate there in Miami, starting with Linda Tran. Linda, you have 30 seconds. Can you do it?
I'm going to try. Look, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, tonight what we saw were two people who were competing over who has done more for the American people to date and who's going to do more to address the challenges facing them when they hit the Oval Office. And this is in sharp contrast to the GOP, who the last time they saw a debate stage were talking about their anatomy. I mean, I think that comparison is pretty much all there needs to be said.
All right, Liz?
First of all, the suit was brown. Bernie Sanders' suit was brown.
Everybody's trying to figure out what the color was.
Yeah, and second of all, I think Hillary Clinton will come off a lot less untrustworthy once she is in the general, if that happens, and she's running against Donald Trump, who has very serious trustworthiness problems.
All right.
Hillary Clinton's got 5 million votes, 60%. Bernie Sanders got 3.3. She's halfway to the delegate total that she needs. I think she takes Florida. I think she takes Illinois. That's her home state, don't forget. To be competitive in Missouri, competitive in Ohio. She'll win North Carolina. This will be wrapped up by early May.
All right, Nomiki.
Are you betting guy? The future path is all very friendly to Bernie Sanders' demographics, is what his campaign's been saying over and over. He's got so much money to get that message out. And a lot of that message, I think, is going to be about Hillary Clinton being held to the fire about policies that she's voted for in the past that have hurt Latinos, have hurt African Americans, have been in favor of Wall Street, sent us into the recession, and against a lot of the policies of the Clinton administration. As much as she wants to separate herself from her husband, she's running a campaign against his record. Right. And he needs to connect the dots on that.
All right, got to stop right there. We got to stop right there, Bernard. But I will tell you my favorite part of the night.
Yeah.
Had to be when you said there were no, the only adults were on the Democratic side. I said, no, there are adults on the GOP side. And all of you guys said at the same time what?
John Kasich.
Look at these guys. All right, my thanks to Liz Plank, Bernard Whitman, and Nomiki Konst in New York, Linda Tran in Washington, and Steve Chigueras and Nancy Cordes in Miami. And